Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Monday, January the 12th, 2026, and today we are doing a full crop breakdown of peas, and we'll take a question about how much bug damage is too much to sell your produce. So let's do it. All right. Happy Monday, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and feeling refreshed after your weekends. Hopefully they were restful, full of good things, happy victories, educational defeats, looking at you, Man U. Whatever it may have been, our weekend was pretty laid back, to be honest. This was the weekend where the big English teams joined the FA Cup tournament, which is basically a giant soccer tournament where lower level teams have a chance to play the best of the best, but very lower level teams. We could start a no-till growers team with a bunch of farmers in England and have a chance to play our way into this round of the tournament. There's really just nothing like it in most major American sports. It is so much fun to watch. It would be like a Division II college baseball team getting to play like the Yankees, potentially in their home stadium. Anyway, Hannah and I love that, and we did a lot of hanging out with kids and watching that tournament, and I did a lot of reading, but not on farming. Where's that book? But rather a book by Bill Buford called Among the Thugs. That's awesome. It's just about soccer hooliganism in the 1990s and 80s. Yeah, very fascinating. Anyway, I felt good after a solid week of farming last week where we got a weirdly warm January, so that was nice. One, in fact, that culminated on Friday when I got bed prepped for the primary subject of today's episode. But before we dive into all that, don't forget you can always send us your 20-second farm video clips to farmermike@notillgrowers.com. Whatever you all have going on around your farm, we'd love to see it. I love seeing those as the season ramps up too. I can't wait to see, kind of what projects you all are working on, focusing on, learning from, all the things. All right, so it is Monday where every week this year, or as many weeks as we can, we are digging into a single, less talked about crop in a series we're calling Planting and Raving, because I think deep down I want this to be, a cheesy morning show. But anyway, today the crop we're going to cover is peas, and not the cover crop type, but the snapping, popping, fresh eating, delicious snacking type. Now, I used to grow peas a lot more than I do now, though I did order some peas because I miss fresh peas and wanted to grow some this year. But we used to grow peas quite a bit because we ran a CSA, and they provided something fun and different earlier in the spring. When most of what is available is leafy, greens, peas can be a welcomed treat and a welcome, change of texture. Now, there are three main types of peas, which, to be clear, I'm not going to talk about dry peas here, just, grow fresh peas until they're dry, I guess, if you want those for something. And I can get down with some split pea soup, so I don't judge. Anyway, the three main types of peas are snow peas, snap peas, and shelling peas. Snow peas are the flat ones, slightly more cold hardy perhaps than others, thus the snow in the name, though I find most peas are pretty cold hardy. I also have heard that the snow in the name comes from the white tint on the leaves and peas, but I'm game for either of those explanations. Snow peas perhaps offer the most in terms of color, with several different shades of green, yellow, and purple available on the seed market. In fact, for years we grew the royal snow because the peas were easy to find on the dang plant. That always helps in harvesting. And I do love me a good snow pea, but my favorite peas, flavor-wise, are the snap peas and shelling peas. The snap peas are the fat ones where you can eat the whole pod. The shelling peas are the ones where, the pod is not edible, but the peas inside in the middle are unreal. Both of these types are really satisfying to harvest, but unlike the snow peas, they actually amount to something in your harvest container, poundage-wise. Don't get me wrong, snow peas are delicious too, 100%. It's that I have a particular affection for the crunch and flavor of a good fat, fresh snapping pea or shelling pea that I kind of prefer those. Some marketing stuff real quick. Peas are great for a CSA, like I said. That's maybe the easiest and best outlet as they don't have a super long shelf life. And after harvest, in fact, they should be, cooled down quickly because they deteriorate pretty fast. Farmers markets can be a solid outlet, but I find chefs are honestly a better outlet for them because the fresh flavor in peas is just unique and it's highly seasonal. On the seasonal note, though, one thing that gets overlooked with peas is the potential as a fall crop. The challenge with the fall is that the pea flowers and pods can't really handle a frost themselves. The pea plant is usually fine, but the flowers and pods are not so much. So the timing can be a bit weird trying to figure out when to plant them and stuff. For me, I would plant here in August, here in Kentucky, zone 6B, but in warmer climates, peas do make an excellent fall crop as well. Pricing them is one of the hardest things to do, only because of the amount of labor they require. The temptation is to go cheaper because cheap is often the expectation, especially at farmers markets. Same goes for things like beans, which we will do later plantings or ravings about. But with all the harvesting plus trellising, the labor really has to be factored in. It has been a while since I've had to do the math, but I think $4 a pound would be the absolute bare minimum you could even close to charge for sugar and shelling peas. And even then, you're probably losing money. And for snow peas, definitely more than that, as they will not weigh as much. You cannot compete with wholesale people that do this. They have harvesting machines and labor that they don't pay very much. So it is almost impossible to compete with like wholesale prices. So you really have to think about what it costs you to produce it. You're just going to have to math it out. In terms of profitability, they are not super profitable unless you charge them adequately. Per row, you're really hoping for give or take like roughly a third of a pound per row foot, maybe more under good conditions, but the average, according to what I can find, is like 2 to 3 pounds per 10 feet, which is not much. I mean, in a foot of lettuce, you get almost a pound, and you can fit a lot more on a bed. So just in terms of profitability, it's pretty low on the scale. Therefore, I do suggest pairing peas with an interplant on wider beds, such as lettuce or spinach or just radishes or something, just to maximize the space if you can. Again, we don't grow them very much anymore for that reason. They're just not, they don't make us enough money. They were easier to justify in a CSA than the farmer's market, where it's just hard to charge adequately. And we charged roughly $6 a pound for our peas, much more, and they just didn't sell at market, at least not in our market. Now, I will talk planting and trellising and harvesting in the third segment, but for now, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, how tolerant are customers of sharing their produce with bugs? BRB. Bug right back. Sorry. Today's episode is brought to you by Ohio Earth Food. So you got your soil tested or need your soil tested, it's time to contact Ohio Earth Food. Since 1972, they have been growers' trusted source for organic soil amendments to apply before you plant to prevent those deficiency symptoms that limit production. Their knowledgeable staff have all been a part of certified organic operations and can help you choose the best products for your soil and deliver or ship them right to your farm. With locations in Northwest Ohio and just north of Madison, Wisconsin, Ohio Earth Food wants to be your partner for organic inputs. Don't count on luck this year. Start your seeds in the Seed Catapult potting soil and put their Revita fertilizers in your beds, and rest assured that your plants will have all the nutrients, stimulants, and energy for whatever comes their way. Feed your soil and let your soil feed the plants. Visit them at ohioearthfood.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Johnny's Selected Seeds. Johnny's Selected Seeds is a proud supporter of Growers Daily. At Johnny's, they do more than sell seeds. They grow them. They trial them to see how they perform on Johnny's research farm in Maine and across the U.S. and Canada. Only the best varieties are added to their catalog and website. When you need proven varieties you can count on and detailed guidance from seedling to harvest, consider Johnny's your trusted growing partner. JohnnySeeds.com. That's JohnnySeeds.com. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Tom Beatty, who writes, quote, "Hey, Jesse, I have a question surrounding bug damage and produce marketability. I'm just a backyard gardener, but often grow more than I need. I like to give excess away to friends and family and will occasionally put a basket of produce on the porch and then post on the neighborhood Facebook page for folks to come help themselves. When I do this, I've found something weird happens. I suddenly get very self-conscious about the bug damage on the produce. I never give anything away that has much damage at all, but those holes in the collards that I usually don't notice start looking pretty big when I'm about to give them to a neighbor. I don't use any pesticides, so some bug damage is bound to happen, but it got me wondering, how do you deal with the bug damage as a market grower? Do farmers market customers expect and understand a certain amount of bug damage? What about chefs? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Thanks," end quote. All right, I love this question, Tom. So damage tolerance is not something I think that gets talked about openly, but is definitely something that every farm has to deal with to some extent. For instance, most people who use insect netting on things like arugula and radishes, like myself sometimes, don't do so necessarily because we won't get a crop if we left it off. We do so because it's hard to get an arugula crop at certain times of the year without heavy bug damage if we don't use the insect netting. and super holy crops, HOLEY, just do not sell as well at market or will straight up be rejected by chefs. Now, as we discuss on a near weekly, if not daily basis on this podcast, the healthier the soil and ecology around the farm, the less bug damage you will have. If your crops have the nutrients they need, the water they need, the tilth that they need, the sunlight, the temperatures, and the general climatic conditions that they need, bugs will be of minimal issue. And so that is what you should, as a grower, always be striving for. That said, stuff is just going to bite your crops sometimes. It does exist in an ecosystem, and so bugs should have some interest in it, I guess. Now, over the years, it has seemed to me that there is a hierarchy of damage tolerance from customers. The CSA, for instance, will often tolerate more damage than the farmer's market customer, and the farmer's market customer will tolerate more damage than the chef or retail customer, especially in a retail situation where the produce and label more or less has to sell itself, and you can't just stand there and put on a happy smiling face behind the collard greens with a couple flea beetle holes. That is when the looks really matter. We as a species kind of tend to eat with our eyes, as they say, so stuff needs to look pristine, or as pristine as possible. In fact, the way that produce looks is one of the big reasons that growers love high tunnels. Stuff that grows in high tunnels just looks better, largely due to the diffuse light and low stress of the plants. You know, the beet greens get super lush, the cabbages and kale greens are nice and tender and rich. When you take the stress of direct sunlight and heat in the field out of the equation, in other words, the plants look a whole lot better. And to be clear, I generally think that field-grown stuff tastes better, and I partially attribute that specifically to the stress, because different protective sunblock phytochemicals, for instance, have to be made that add a little bit of something extra to the crop flavor. But that's not necessarily scientific fact as much as just observation. A lot of time and energy is poured into making produce look good, for sure. That can mean chemical sprays on industrial farms or biological sprays on organic ones. It can mean insect netting, high tunnels, and other insect interventions. With some growers, however, that can also mean an abundant ecological environment in which the produce is grown that manages the pests a little better. Ideally, that's the type of damage mitigation we're all striving for. Doesn't necessarily mean we can all get there right away, or for every pest or for every crop. Anyway, I am sure there others will have some thoughts on this, but love the question. Let us know what you all think, listeners/viewers, and otherwise, we will peas out of this episode in the next segment. Get it? Because peas, but it's also the last segment. You'll get it later. Pea right back. Today's episode is brought to you by High Mowing Organic Seeds. High Mowing Organic Seeds is celebrating their 30th anniversary with 48 fabulous new varieties for 2026. Highlights include downy mildew-resistant cucumbers, a poppy that looks like cotton candy, and 12 new tomato varieties. High Mowing offers more than 750 varieties of certified organic, non-GMO vegetables, flowers, herbs, and cover crops, all trialed for optimal performance in organic growing systems. High Mowing has the professional quality seeds and supportive grower reps to get you from seed to harvest. Visit highmowingseeds.com to request a catalog and use code 26NOTILL, all caps, for 10% off your order of $100 or more. That's highmowingseeds.com. All right, back to the show. Okay, so peas are generally one of the first crops of the new growing season to be planted. That's why I was working on it this week. We have planted them as early as February, and if you're in a tunnel situation, which that's where we're growing our little family patch of peas this year, then you could go as early as January in our climate, which again is Kentucky Zone 6B, and our last chance of frost is roughly May 10th, though usually by May 1st we're good. We'll usually look at the weather and make sure, but usually May 1st. Really, even in our climate, March is fine for planting. It doesn't have to be super early. Peas are just one of the things that you will likely plant in your first plantings. Peas, like pretty much everything, like fertile, well-drained soil. They also can benefit from inoculation with rhizobium bacteria like other legumes, but the benefits are not always super consistent and clear in the research. It won't hurt to inoculate them, especially if you've never grown peas in that area, or really most other legumes with that rhizobium bacteria that you can buy from most seed suppliers. If you can't do that or don't want to buy another product, what I usually do with all legumes is soak them in a compost tea or extract overnight at room temperature before sowing them. This speeds up germination, which is good because as soon as pests find them, they will devour them. So getting the peas growing as fast as possible is ideal. And it will also inoculate them with lots of good microbes other than the rhizobium. Anyway, for sowing, you can use a seeder. The pea plate on the earthway typically does the trick nicely, but use whatever seeder makes sense for the size of peas that you have. Or alternatively, you can dig a 4-inch wide furrow and drop the peas in a thick band, just doing that with your fingers by hand. You're aiming for roughly 1 to 2 inches apart. Doesn't have to be exact. If you're doing trellised varieties, I like doing 2 rows with a seeder about 3 inches apart, or like I said, 1 4-inch wide band with seeds around 1 to 2 inches apart. For varieties that need short or no trellising, like 18 to 24 inch tall varieties or 45 to 60 centimeters, then you can go with rows 24 inches apart. That's 60 centimeters. So you could, in that scenario, do 2 rows on one bed with more bush varieties if you have wide enough beds. Then for trellising, cattle panels or woven wire fencing work well for reusability. I do not personally love the plastic cord and oven netting. 1, because it's hard to reuse, and 2, it just gives off that, like I'm going to go choke a dolphin in the ocean one day vibe. So I don't love it. I used it for a couple of years, carefully rolling it up and, unrolling it, but never again. It's a pain to work with. And again, dolphins. The 4-foot tall woven wire fencing is more expensive, of course, but its usability will last forever. You can also make one using twine if you want to, some sort of biodegradable twine, basically using T-posts every 10 feet or so, and then using twine between them, just tying twine tightly between them, and then, some lines going up and down so that the peas can slowly climb up. It's definitely more work to do it that way, but also perhaps more biodegradable, so long as you use the untreated twine. Anyway, yeah, T-posts and trellising can be placed a few inches above the soil surface. You don't have to start right on the soil surface for peas to sort of climb up to. They will do most of this work themselves, but you will find they need a little encouragement. When things are dense, they will try and climb up each other and then they'll just fall over. Once they latch on though, they will pretty much stay there. But sometimes, like I said, they will get tall and fall over and they'll just need you to kind of pick them up and reattach them. Speaking of falling over, make sure the structure that you're using is really secured and won't get blown over by wind. Make sure to leave yourself some harvest room on either side as well. You don't want these things bumping up right next to another row of peas and you can't get through there. As for harvest, just do a lot of tasting because peas are awesome, but fresh peas are extraordinary. So don't miss out on that. And when they get to that prime stage flavor-wise and, shape-wise or whatever you're looking for, harvest them into baskets or bins and get them into a cooler rapidly to preserve their quality. If they are wet at all, like it's raining outside or there was dew on the ground or whatever, try to dry them a little bit before storing to avoid fungal issues. That could be throwing them in a salad spinner or something, or it could be placing them in flat bins in thinner layers, just open in a walk-in or fridge for a day, then transfer them to a more sealed container. One harvest tip to speed up the process is harvest with both hands and fill your hands as much as possible before placing them in the basket. That travel time from plant to basket can eat up a lot of your harvest time, so don't do any more of that pick one, drop one thing with your hands than absolutely need be. And I think that's about it. They go in stir fries well. Peas are just wonderfully versatile and delicious. Would love to hear your all's thoughts on peas, where they make sense for you in your garden and where they don't. Do you sell them? Do you not? What do you do for pricing? Also, what do you do for cooking? What would you do for your peas beyond just stand there and slam? Honestly, the pea patch has a long history of being a water cooler on the market farm for us, where we all kind of just would gather, snack, and tell dad jokes around it. Anyway, I think that's it for this Plantings and Ravings. So peas be the journey. Don't forget, No Till Growers is now officially a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That's an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors. And if you'd ever like to sponsor this show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and my wife Hannah for absolutely everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at notillgrowers.com to support our work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/notillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of January, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Ilion Dykov. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I am trying. Shouts to you, Ilion. All right, so this week's story, should you choose to keep it going, is about a farm school, specifically a farm high school. And what I mean by farm high school is that it's a school that is also a farm that uses the gardens and the pastures and all that stuff to teach everything from math to science to language arts to all the things. So the goal being not only to give real life tangible context to things that they are learning, but also hopefully to create more farmers, because, well, in this story, in this world, there are no farmers. They basically don't exist, and they haven't for years, honestly. The reason for that? Well, that is for tomorrow, provided we get more signups or bump ups on Cropped Out. Yeah, I don't know. I think I could do better. We'll try better tomorrow. Thanks for watching and or listening. We'll do it then. Bye.
Like I knew you How many times have you wished you could be in two places at once? With Wix, you practically can. Wix's website builder is packed with powerful AI tools to make running your business online easier. Build a full site just by talking with AI. Get an AI agent to manage your sales and marketing. Or work like a 10-person team, even if it's just you. So you don't need superpowers to get everything done. You just need Wix. Try it now for free at Wix.com.